Hi, I'm Carlos, but actually I'm not talking exactly about games. I'm talking about how we managed to make a Ruby on Rails app a viable solution for a game environment that is basically a game environment for a real-time strategy game made just for mobiles. So I'm Carlos. I work for Culicar now, but that game, it was a product for a previous company I worked on Montreal, called C4M. The name of the game is Battleplans, and it's a mobile game for Android and iOS. That that is a real-time strategy game, and I'm trying to tell some tricks we use to make Spartan Ruby on Rails environment as a viable solution for that. So, directly for the answer that of that talk, how did manage to do that? When we talk about real-time strategy games, we usually think on complex structures that is difficult to manage with, that is usually difficult to manage with Ruby on Rails. But how did we manage to accomplish that? It's kind of simple. We just needed to know what problems we needed to solve exactly. And the team that started the game, that started to develop the backend app for that game, needed to take some decisions before to decide what language, what technologies they would use. But they just they didn't try to anticipate things. They just followed what was supposed to be done, what was supposed to have on the game, and they didn't try to anticipate things. And I would try to expose some tricks we used, but in form of some advice that we followed, and at least they worked for us. And as I told you, the first thing it was not anticipate a solution, not anticipated a complex structure to accomplish some behaviors that usually makes a game, makes an structure more complex than the necessary. Because it was difficult to make something more complex for a skinny team that like the developer team for C4M, that it was just a startup without a product to show, without a product to show to investors to get maybe more money to get more developers or more people working on it. And that is it. Back on the game, when the team realizes what problems it should be solved, seeing what was the game design, what was decided for the game work on, what was the minimum necessary to have a game working, they did see that they could use any technology they wanted. They could use any technology they know, and they decided to use Ruby on Rails just because it was the technology that they domained that time. That was the technology that they had the people to work on it, and with that they could make that game sooner than learning a new technology to make that game. Because time it was crucial for Battleplans. When the game started, it was just an idea, like many ideas from startup, and they needed to gather money from investors. They needed to gather players to play the game, to have the investors. So they did need to make that game faster as soon as possible. And it was extremely risky. Choose another language that they didn't know domain just because it could be something more resilient or something more scalable than Ruby on Rails, or at least something more expensive to scale. And they couldn't take that risk because it would be a step back to learn something new and use something that you don't know the fallback from the. You don't know what the problems that could bring to the project. And that game should start faster because it's a kind of game that when I explain about the game, you will see that this is a kind of game that every day appears a similar game in a market, in an app market, and it has already some big bosses that I'm sure, and I saw that yesterday, that some of you already played. So, what is Battleplans? What is that problem that we needed to solve? To have a big picture of that, to have at least an overview, it's necessary to know more about Battleplans. Battleplans is a strategy game that can be played on PvP or PvE mode. But on both modes, the type of matches are very similar. That it's an attack and conquer mode. And well, I'm sure you can remember of a lot of games that similar to that, like Clash of Clans and Clash Royale, like that was the big bosses for us, the big competitors. But similar to them, on Battleplans, players in a match are divided as attackers and defenders. But either as attacker or defender, the player brings to the match a planned subset of its army, organized as squads and composed for troops and leads by heroes. There are many kinds of troops and heroes on Battleplans, and a lot of possibilities with a lot of combinations between them, and a lot of special abilities from heroes that could bring another that could make a new strategy to contribute to play to win. Before attack or defend, a player needs to build its army. When a player is a complete beginner, it just saves a basic army, and it will evolve that playing the game on PvE modes, and use that to make a tutorial, to make a kind of tutorial to teach how to play that game. When after play some matches on PvE mode, it could be and raise its army more. It will be allowed to play on PvP mode, and there during a match on PvP or PvE modes, players are divided on attacker and defender, and the concept at the same in both modes. We just for PvE modes we just use some prepared plans to work as a defender, and the attacker will be still in real time and play the game. The match style is a kind of capture the flag and flag rush, being necessary capturing and hold bases on of the defender, while the defender should take back that base, or at least maintain that base until the time limit or all the troops die. Obviously, the play with more base on his control, it will win the match. Before any match takes place, both attacker and defender prepare a subset of its arm to use on that match, and they decide they base the strategy based on that. When an attacker starts playing, he commands his squads on real time, following the strategy he thinks it's better to win the match. But the defender on your side, it will be prepared even before being attacked. A defender will, a player is qualified as a defender when he prepares a defense plan for a specific match, for a specific map, and we just use that map, that plan on an attack, on a match, and the engine will just follow that's instructions. Yeah, it's not real time for both sides. For the attacker, it is what attacker it will command that his troops and react from the it will react from the commands from the defender, but for the defender, as I told you, it's just the game engine that will work on it, that will execute the plan that was previously prepared for that, and that make it more simple to deal with the game and to make it require it a lesser complex app. For the game, the defender will use an army in similar conditions as the attacker. The difference that it will just make the tiled plan with setting the squads to position it where it thinks it's better and move it on to where and when he thinks that it would be good to trick the attacker or to take back his base. The defender can also decide when to release some heroes' special abilities, well, at least when that abilities are not passives, and he can reproduce the plan against itself, to testing him as attacker just to be sure that the plan is valid, that the plan can be successful. After attack, a defender will just be notified about the attack. It will just be notified that it was attacked for someone and see what was the result for that. So, as a defender, we don't have a need that the defender be online during a match. We already have its plans, and then the engine will just execute that. Actually, the server needed to receive the commands from the attacker. As the game engine have already the plans for the defender, it just calculates the results of reactions from the attacker and send the results and at the end of the game it will send the results for the server. Yeah, I told that it was real time, but it's not real time as maybe some of you told it before. It's real time because the attacker can react for some movements from the defender, but it can react whatever he wants from movements from the defender, but the game engine deal with it itself. We just need to take it the server just needed to receive the results of that and a log of what happened to be able to create to do his job, like create a replay, calculate the results of the match, adjust the fairness of that match, give the rewards for both attacker and defender, and notify the defender of the attack. So, with that simple design, as I told you, we didn't need to develop something complex, like something complex to understand and maybe difficult to maintain or more resource consuming. We didn't need to make something like a WebSocket to have both attacker and defender connected and deal with problems like sync the commands, because like every startup, we start small. We started small, and we had a team that we limited resources to work on it. We limited time and actually limited people. And we actually we also needed to remember that Battleplans is a game for mobile, so we could not ensure that our players have a reliable internet connection, or neither we could require that our players have reliable internet connection like Wi-Fi. But even with that simpler design, we had problems. Actually, it was not exactly problems with that strategy to just receive the results, but to have a smart engine, we needed to have a lot of requests of different stuff just to make to allow the engine to have a big picture of what was the army of the clients, both attackers and defenders, calculate what players could be what players could appear for the attacker to have a fair match. It needed to receive information from the matchmaker, details from the attacker, and details of a lot of stuff from the server, a lot of different resources. And that was kind of a problem because the game needed to send a lot of requests to fetch data to either to start a game, to start a match, or for any different workflows that has in the game. And we saw that we had a lot of errors on the requests, not exactly because of the problem, but because of a not reliable internet connection. So some requests, we noted that that many users had errors fetching data, and that driven to inconsistent data on the game engine, and that it was responsible to have a bad experience with games that was not considered valid after the final of the game, and the engine just because the engine was inconsistent, and we needed to prevent that. To solve that problem, we added on demand another layer of complexity. At least the first reasonable layer of complexity. We added a thing. We needed to have a small amount of requests, but we decided that we couldn't make just some endpoints with bigger JSON with a lot of data that was not related for only one thing. It would be very complex because many resources that we needed, it was present on different workflows. So we would end with big endpoints, with big data results that would have a lot of duplicate values, and it would be very difficult to maintain, or that becomes very difficult to maintain. But instead, we opted to have that layer of complexity that permitted us to make just one request and fetch and get whatever data we needed at once, without duplicating the controllers or handlers. That resulted on Grape Batch. Grape Batch, it was a hack on Grape API that permitted us to have a batch endpoint to receive a list of to receive a JSON, to receive as request a JSON with a list of commands to be sent to Rails. It was a layer that that operate on a middleware before the requests get on the hosts. And it filtered the request and split it on a list and sent it to Rails and just collected the data. And the result, it was the JSON that we wanted. It was the JSON with a big, it was a big JSON with a lot of the resources that we needed, but at least it was dynamic. We could have any resource we wanted. We just needed to tell. We just needed to send that list to the batch request, and we would get the results in the same order we get, or the same order we asked. That changed what was workflow with 10 requests necessary to start a game and mount the world map with competitors in similar conditions. And we ended with just one request with everything necessary to start a game, everything necessary to have the players prepared to attack, and that ended with less errors overall. In a point of view, the answer became a bit slower because we are dealing now with one endpoint that did a lot of requests on a lot of requests itself. And maybe it looked slower because we used it to have many small requests with 50, 100 millisecond response, and now we are having a more complex, a bigger request with 200, 300 milliseconds. But for us, it was not a problem because overall it would be a similar time to fetch out data necessary. But for us, the more important it was the data consistency. We could not rely on the data that we received on a solution with a lot of small requests. So for us, it was a big improvement because if the mobile had some errors fetching the data, it could just fail and do the request again, or at least it would not have the data inconsistent, so it would be less frustrating for the player. Yeah, I'm sorry. I take a bit. It was a bit faster because I'm really nervous, but I will try to check if there are some questions here, and I'll try to answer if there are one. Yeah, it looks that not. So, thank you. And you can have that game. You can find that game both on Google Play and App Store. And you could. I hope that you enjoy that game. Thank you. You can find me on Twitter or Figueiredo, and I'm for sure I will be on the after today.